They called it the house that spoke, though no one ever agreed on what it said. Some people swore they heard whispers in its halls, soft as breath, and gone before they could place the words. Others said it groaned like a man in pain, the walls themselves shifting when you pressed your ear to the plaster. For decades, the mansion on Alder Lane sat empty, grand but decaying, its windows blind with dust, its garden wild and untamed. Locals crossed the street when passing it. Children dared each other to step onto the porch, though few stayed long enough to prove they were brave. But houses don't speak without reason, and this one had plenty. The last family to live there vanished, every single one, as though they'd simply been swallowed by the walls. The case went cold, investigators baffled, until eventually it was written off as a mystery better left unsolved. But mysteries don't stay buried forever. Not when greed, curiosity, and desperation are involved. That's how Anna found herself standing before the house on a gray morning, clutching a folder of paperwork. She was a real estate agent, though not a particularly successful one, and when her boss offered her the listing, she'd accepted without hesitation. Selling a property this size could change her career. She could already picture the commission. She told herself the stories were just that, stories. Every old house has its myths. People vanish all the time. Families move without leaving notes. There was always an explanation, even if no one had found it. She fit the key into the lock, surprised that it turned so easily, as though someone had oiled it just for her. The door swung inward with a groan that seemed too loud for an empty building. The air that greeted her was stale, cold with the faint tang of iron. She stepped inside, heels clicking against marble that should have been beautiful but instead looked like bone, pale and veined with cracks. The silence pressed in immediately, thick and heavy. She tried to shake it off. It was just a house. For walls, a roof, nothing more. She made her way through the entry hall, running her fingers along the banister. The wood was smooth but oddly warm, almost pulsing beneath her touch, like the faintest throb of a heartbeat. She pulled her hand away quickly, forcing a laugh. Nerves. Just nerves. Room by room, she explored, taking notes for the listing. The dining room with its long, dust-covered table. The library with shelves bowed under the weight of rotting books. The bedrooms upstairs, where the beds still had impressions in the mattresses, as if someone had lain there not long ago. She told herself it was imagination, but unease coiled tighter in her chest with every step. In the master bedroom, she paused. A mirror leaned against the wall, cracked across the center. She caught a reflection, but it wasn't right. Her face looked pale, drawn, her eyes too wide. And behind her, just for an instant, she thought she saw movement. A figure passing the doorway, she spun around, but the hall was empty. She left the room quickly, her footsteps echoing in a way that didn't quite match her pace, as though someone else was following just behind. On the third floor, she found a door that didn't appear on the floor plan, narrow, tucked into the corner of the hall. It was locked, but when she pressed her ear to it, she swore she heard breathing on the other side. She stepped back, pulse pounding. That was when the house made its first sound for her. A whisper, so faint she thought at first it was the wind. Stay. The word crawled through her ears, low and desperate. She ran then, all pretense of professionalism gone, stumbling down the stairs, out the front door, slamming it behind her. She stood on the porch gasping, the morning light suddenly feeling too thin, too weak to protect her. She told herself she wouldn't come back. No commission was worth this. But when she returned to the office, her boss was waiting. He smiled when she said she couldn't take the listing. "Of course you can," he said, his eyes cold. "You're already in the system." He handed her a sheet of paper. It was the property record, but her name wasn't listed as the agent. It was listed as the owner. Her blood ran cold. "There must be some mistake," she stammered, but he shook his head. "No mistake. The house chooses. You opened the door. You're part of it now. She tore the paper, threw it down, and ran from the office. But when she looked up at the window of her car, she saw her reflection again, pale, drawn, eyes wide, and behind her, the cracked mirror from the master bedroom, though she hadn't brought it with her. That night, her phone rang. She didn't answer, but the voicemail recorded anyway. When she played it back, she heard her own voice whispering, "Stay." She moved out of her apartment within days, trying to outrun it, but no matter where she went, the sound followed, in the silence between heartbeats, in the hum of the refrigerator, in the static of the radio. Always the same word, "stay." People began to notice changes in her. She grew thinner, her eyes hollow, her voice distant. Friends stopped calling, unnerved by the way she stared past them, as though listening to something they couldn't hear. And then one day, she vanished, no trace, no forwarding address. Her apartment left exactly as if she had stepped out for groceries and never returned. The listing for the house on Alder Lane appeared again shortly after. The agent listed was Anna. The description was glowing, almost poetic, as though she'd fallen in love with the place. Interested buyers visited, but none stayed long. They complained of whispers, of reflections that didn't match, of footsteps in empty rooms. The house didn't want them, it wanted her. And maybe it has her now, swallowed into its walls like the family before. Maybe she's part of the chorus of whispers, the groans of wood and stone, the endless call to stay. So, if you ever find yourself walking down Alder Lane and you hear a voice that doesn't quite sound like your own, telling you to step inside, remember this: houses don't speak unless they have something to say. And sometimes, what they say is the last thing you'll ever hear.